Hello, Grapperinos, and welcome to another exciting episode of Probably Next Week on Raw. I'm Bryon, and once again, joining me is someone who deeply loves LA Knight. It's Mike. Say hi, Mike.
Yeah,
Deeply loves
they need
is
to
the
push him.
accurate.
They need to push him. They
Yeah.
need to. It's as every time I see Trips pushing young talent, I'm like, yeah, makes sense. I mean, I know LA Knight's not young; he's like 40 something. And then they just go back to giving Seth Rollins the briefcase, and I'm like,
I'm seeing a lot of complaints about Naomi and Seth having the briefcases, and I'm like, I can see why for Seth, because he's a top guy, but for Naomi, I think Naomi deserves it, honestly.
yeah, Naomi makes sense.
Yeah.
I would have probably had Seth fantasy booking here. I probably would have had Seth win King of the Ring.
Yeah,
You know,
that would have made more sense than freaking and just use King of the Ring to bolster his shot to the World Heavyweight Championship and win it at SummerSlam. But oh well, what can you do? But instead, book next week's show of Monday Night Raw, which is what the show is all about. Great transition. So, yes, we are going to book the next episode of Monday Night Raw as always. And we are going to do it using these rules. As you can see here, we can only use active superstars on the respective rosters, no crossover, no SmackDown peeps, although that rule may be laxed because of what they're doing recently, as of this time. Non-active wrestlers can be used within the realm of possibility. Our booking includes announced matches for next week, or the next episode of Monday Night Raw with our predictions, and our booking can use any valid stipulation for any match aside from the announced matches. And after we lock in our bookings and predictions for the next episode of Monday Night Raw, we will watch the next episode and score our predictions based on the scoring system. 1 point for each person competing in a match, 1 point for who won and how, and 1 point for the stipulation. Promos, half a point for each person coming out, and one if that person comes out first, making it his or her kind of centered promo, and 1 point for each topic talked about. 1 point for the correct order of segments from beginning to end. 0.5 points if the predicted promo person is in a match and vice versa. Anything announced between video release and the show, I should say beginning of the show, counts. And backstage segments and ad-free segments for the Netflix premium tier do not count. So, here are the scores from last week. I think I had a huge amount of points, and you didn't get much, Mike. So I'm pretty much maybe it's because I might have gotten a bit too generous with mine. Maybe because I'm like, okay, 1 point, I guess for the competitors, 1 point for this person winning. But I,
I'd like
I
to
think
see
I
the
got most of
splits
it right.
between. I would like to see the splits between Raw and SmackDown. I feel like I do better on SmackDown for some reason.
You did, yeah. You're leading on SmackDown. Like I'm behind by a couple points. Whereas on Raw, I have a huge lead apparently. So I I will probably make a couple of weeks kind of like a fantasy booking thing to let you catch up, and then I'll get my creative juices flowing. But I don't know. We'll see if my lead extends or if you can catch up with this week. And let's take a look at the announced matches. We got the Queen of the Ring quarterfinal as Asuka returns, taking on Ivy Nile, Raquel Rodriguez, and Stephanie Vaquer in a fatal four-way. And the King of the Ring quarterfinal as Sheamus takes on Rusev, Bronson Reed, and Jey Uso in a fatal four-way. So, without further ado, let's book this thing, starting with my version of the show, as Gunther comes out to the ring and speaks about him winning the World Heavyweight Championship last week, or I should say last week as of the next episode of Raw. And he's gonna gloat and say that, he's the best. Jey was just a fluke, and he is the actual champion. And unfortunately, we are going to have Goldberg come out. And I say this because it's been confirmed that Goldberg is returning for the next episode of Monday Night Raw. So with that, I'm gonna have Goldberg come out and say two things. You're next, and that's it. Basically, he's gonna challenge. He's gonna challenge Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship at Saturday night's main event, and it will set up that match because Goldberg wants it to be a title match somehow. I don't know.
Where was
So,
this intel? I see.
where was this
I almost
intel?
had this.
Yeah.
I was doing this earlier today, and I was like, "Yeah, Goldberg can come back." And then I looked at the venue, and I was
Yeah.
like, no, like it'd make more sense if he came back in Atlanta. And I switched it at the last second. I did not know you had inside baseball as to he was actually returning.
I
Damn.
okay. I usually say this. I don't trust the third sheets, but I think this time I'm gonna trust them. And also, I have like a 15-point lead. So if this is wrong, that's fine. I'm gonna let you catch up on this one. But I think this is gonna lead to Goldberg versus Gunther as Saturday night's main event
Was it
for the
Meltzer? If
world.
it's not Meltzer, then I don't believe it.
I mean, Meltzer can be unreliable sometimes too. So, but that is what I think. It's going to happen. Like, if it's not at Saturday night's main event, it's probably going to be at SummerSlam or some other event at the end of the year, like Survivor Series or something. Like, Goldberg's going to retire, and his match is going to be with Gunther. That is what his retirement match will be. And that is that. So, we're going to move on from that to the King of the Ring quarterfinal match as Bronson Reed takes on Jey Uso, Rusev, and Sheamus in a fatal four-way. And I'm going to have Rusev win by submission because we're pushing all the new guys. It's kind of weird. I think people are saying Jey Uso should win, but I don't think they're going to gamble on Jey Uso once again to take it off of Gunther because, well, I think they've kind of ran out of, I don't know, enthusiasm for Jey Uso, maybe. I mean, they let him do his song and dance and everything, but as for factoring in to the equation of the title contention for the World Heavyweight Championship, I don't think they're going to factor him in. And plus, he's going to be probably factored into Bronson Reed. Sheamus, he can go do another mid-card feud, so I think Rusev is going to continue the push. He's going to continue the undefeated streak. And we're going to move on from that to Kofi Kingston versus Grayson Waller. This is because we're probably gonna have a backstage segment with Adam Pearce or A-Town Down Under, maybe Grayson, maybe Austin, maybe both. Come to Adam Pearce and say, hey, you know, we've been arguing a lot, but you know what? We are a team. We can handle this. So give us a chance. We're gonna go challenge the New Day for the World Tag Team Championships, and Adam Pearce goes, hey now, you gotta prove yourself first. So why don't I book a match between Grayson Waller and Kofi Kingston? And he goes, okay, yeah, sure, I guess. And that's how this match happens. So we're gonna have Grayson Waller win by pinfall, and that motivates A-Town Down Under to keep going. Now, I know some people are advocating for a split, but knowing Triple H and knowing that he is not going to have heel tag teams just peter away, I think he's going to let A-Town Down Under continue for just a little while longer until something happens where Grayson and Austin Theory just break up and go their separate ways. That is what I think. I think they're going to keep going to the World Tag Team Championship situation. They're going to challenge the New Day. And then, at the title match, they're going to have some miscommunication, which leads to a breakup that happens after the match. So that's what I think. I think that's what's going to happen. But, I don't know. We'll see. But that's what I have there. We're going to move on to AJ Styles versus JD McNuggets. And I'm going to have AJ Styles win by pinfall after a failed distraction from Judgment Day, which fuels the tension between the members of the Judgment Day. You see it on the screen. And then next week, Finn Balor will forgive everyone and everything, because that's the Judgment Day for you. Yep. That's that. for the Judgment Day. It's just miscommunication 1 week. Next week, all is forgiven. And Dom eats chicken nuggets for some reason. So there you go. We're gonna move on from that to a Bayley promo. Bayley's gonna come out to the ring, talks about coming back to kick Becky's ass, and that she wants to challenge her for the Women's Intercontinental Championship or something like that. I think.
Yes.
Yes. I forgot the name of the title. And we're gonna have Becky Lynch come out and talk about how Bayley is now taking her title. And Bayley's like, okay, why don't you challenge me to a match at Night of Champions for that title? I want your title. And we're gonna have Becky Lynch accept. But after that, she gets taken out by Lyra from behind. It could go to a triple threat between the three women at Night of Champions, or we could make it a situation where Bayley versus Becky is a match, and then have Lyra intervene, and that makes it a triple threat at SummerSlam. I don't know, but I think that is the situation there. And we move on from that to the Queen of the Ring quarterfinal, as Asuka returns to take on Ivy Nile, Raquel Rodriguez, and Stephanie Vaquer. And surprising as Asuka is returning, I'm gonna have Stephanie Vaquer win by pinfall because she's new and she is being pushed like God depends on it. So I'm gonna have Stephanie Vaquer win, and frankly, they're pushing her, so that's what's gonna happen. Asuka's probably gonna go into a feud against a Judgment Day or something. I don't know. Maybe she could be factored into the Women's Intercontinental Championship situation. Maybe the Women's Tag Team Champion as she tags with Kairi Sane one more time to get the Kabuki Warriors going and just take it off of Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. I don't know, but I don't think Asuka's winning. It's gonna go to Stephanie, I think. We're gonna cap off the show with a CM Punk promo. Punk comes out, talks about the match with John Cena at Night of Champions. Says that he is the man of the people. He is going to take that title away from Cena. He's gonna give it back to the people because he is the man of the people. He's the voice of the voiceless, and he's gonna use that power to take it out of Cena and just give it back to the people. Doesn't matter if it's in Saudi Arabia. He's not here to make friends. He's here to make Saudi money. And out comes Cena. Cena says that CM Punk is just not a punk anymore. He took the bait. He's going to Saudi Arabia. He is a hypocrite. And he's going to list out all the things that CM Punk is a hypocrite of, not the least including the Saudi Arabia thing. And he's just gonna lash out at Punk and criticize Punk and saying that he's a Cena wannabe or something like that. He wants to be the face of the company. And we're gonna have him, and him meaning Cena, we're gonna have him leave, but he gets attacked out of nowhere by R-Truth as the show fades to black. And that is my version of the show. Any questions?
Now that I think of it, Asuka losing and then reforming the Kabuki Warriors to take out Liv and Raquel does sound like a good idea because they are lacking for tag teams in the women's division of Raw.
Yeah.
That sounds highly likely.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't think Asuka's
I also thought they were going to hold off on Becky versus Bayley for a little bit, maybe until SummerSlam, like a bigger show. But now I realize that it is a Saudi show, and they do like the big hitters, so that probably will happen.
Yeah, they want their biggest stars. They want Goldberg on there. They want. Hey man, Goldberg. It's not like Yokozuna last time. They freaking requested a legacy superstar to be on their show. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a Saudi show. They'll pay a huge amount of money to have these people come in and do their matches and stuff. So yeah, that's that. Well, if there are no other questions, we'll move on to your version of the show. And I'm guessing there's none. So we're gonna move on to your version, starting off with.
So I have Gunther coming out. He brags about winning the title, says he's a better man than Jey Uso, and he's back on top. Rollins comes out because he's a Raw guy. He's on Raw. His faction is on Raw, despite being on SmackDown for 2 weeks in a row. Um, he comes out and he says, my goal doesn't change. I'll be here to make your life a living hell. Then both Brawns come down to the ring. They surround Gunther, beat him up a little bit, and Gunther is saved by Jey Uso. Now, you're probably wondering why Jey Uso is saving Gunther. Well, remember when Jey Uso had the title and Gunther was like, hey man, you can't be going around like saving everybody and helping everybody because you are the champion. You need to preserve yourself. I think this is Jey Uso's way of being like, yeah, see, bro, like I don't run that way, you know. I still help people even if I'm not the champion, right? And I think this is a good way to sort of get some of Jey Uso's uh, vibe back, if I should say, right? Like he got beat, he tapped out, or I forget, he didn't tap out, right? No, he just got knocked out.
Yes, she got knocked out by the sleeper hold.
Okay,
Gunther.
yeah. I think Jey Uso helps him, and then he stares him down and walks out of the ring. Yeah.
All right, interesting. So you say it will bleed on to the next match, which is.
Well, this isn't bleeding to the next match.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No. AJ Styles versus JD McDonough. Thank you for stealing this from me, Bryon. I appreciate it.
I said McNugget, man. I said McNugget. All right. It's a little different.
I sent you this card earlier in the day, and surprisingly, you have AJ Styles versus.
Hold on. For honesty, I came up with my card this morning, so.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Okay. AJ Styles versus JD McDonough. Why? So AJ Styles said in a backstage interview last week that he wants to go after the Judgment Day because he feels disrespected by them for some fucking reason, I guess. So I think this is going to eventually end in them giving him the IC title that Dominic has currently. I think that will happen either at Night of Champions or it'll happen at SummerSlam. And that, or maybe even Saturday night's main event. But I think AJ Styles works his way through the Judgment Day. It goes McDonough, and then goes to Finn Balor, and then goes to what's his name, Dan? Then goes to
you mean Carlito?
Sorry,
Carlito is out. Like he's confirmed that he's exiting the company.
I was making a joke.
Okay. Damn it! I ruined it again.
Yes. Goes through finally Dominic Mysterio and takes the title off of him.
I will say, hold on. I will just say, Carlito has to be the smartest person in that company. Think about it, man. The guy gets paid to do nothing but eat an apple and do comedic stuff with the Judgment Day.
What did he do? He didn't even do anything. I think he was in all of like 4 matches in a year and a half.
It's crazy.
Like, crazy, yeah. He just sat in the back and played PS5 and took a few bumps, and that was it.
Easy payday, man.
Getting his bag and doing nothing.
Yeah, easy payday, man. That's crazy. All right, that's all I will say about that. I mean, okay, so you're saying AJ Styles wins. So you're gonna have him go through every member of the Judgment Day, sort of as a trial by fire. Do you think this will lead into him being inducted into the Judgment Day? Like he'll be the new leader of the Judgment Day, kind of, and that's how the Judgment Day kind of breaks up. And AJ Styles is
That's
like,
a
"I'm
good
the new
question.
leader." Yeah.
That's a really interesting question. I would say fantasy booking wise, maybe because it does kind of make sense that AJ wants to like lead his own faction, but
Yeah.
I don't think so. It's
Okay.
interesting, but I don't think they're going to go that way.
All right. Okay. Well, in that case, we'll move on to.
A Town Down Under. Okay. This is where they finally break up. And after they break up, it's a public like the Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill like bitch fights that are happening, where they yell at each other like women. Am I right?
Oh my
Ha!
god.
Misogyny allegations. They come in,
Well,
then
that's a Triple H. But
yes.
yeah.
They break up on live TV, and wow, I'm actually forgetting the guy's name now. Austin Theory, thank you.
There you
Austin
go.
Theory leaving Grayson Waller in the ring by himself. The New Day come out, and they're like, "Hey man, we're sorry, but maybe you're better out by yourself." And they're like, "Who is next?" And I'm going to swerve you here because I just thought of this last minute. Um,
Bro.
the what?
No,
Oh
I
god,
was just imitating
bro,
Vince Russo.
swerve, bro. I'm going
Yeah.
to have Alpha Academy come out
Whoa.
and say that they want a title fight and they want to take the New Day's titles. Now, why do I say this? Well, I say this because I think the Judgment Day, no, sorry, Alpha Academy, learning their lessons from fighting Rusev and getting their ass handed to them by Rusev, I think they come out and they're much more prepared to take a crack at the tag team titles.
Okay.
And I think Adam Pearce doesn't book this, but I think this leads to the Alpha Academy, beating the War Raiders, um, maybe beating the Judgment Day, like JD McDonough and Finn Balor, um, and eventually getting up to fighting the New Day for their titles at maybe Night of Champions, maybe in SummerSlam, and that leads to a feel-good win for Alpha Academy.
I could see that happening. Yeah. Although I see it happening more for SummerSlam than Night of Champions, considering the amount of time they have left for Night of Champions. So
That
I'd
is
rather
true.
just
That
do
is
it at
true. Yes.
SummerSlam. Yeah. And we're gonna have Kofi Kingston once again on commentary, being rude and doing justice from the people of Massachusetts. Thank you, Kofi, for representing. But
He's from the
yeah.
most affluent and arrogant town in Massachusetts, and I couldn't. It's he plays the part well. I will say he plays the part
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Represent. Moving on.
All right, drink water. So we have the Queen of the Ring quarterfinal. Final one is Asuka, Ivy Nile, Raquel Rodriguez, Stephanie back here. As much as I think they should push Ivy Nile, she is here to take the pin. Unfortunately, I think Asuka wins. Why do I think they don't push Stephanie back here? Well, I thought they were going to push Roxanne, and I was wrong. So I'm willing to be wrong again. And I think Asuka wins because she is returning. But like I said earlier, I can totally see her losing and reforming Kabuki Warriors to go after the Judgment Day, especially if it's Raquel that costs her the opportunity. So
Yeah, I mean, on my booking, I said that Stephanie Becker would win, but I wouldn't have her pinning Asuka, or I wouldn't have Asuka taking any pins. I would have Ivy Nile being pinned. Sorry to say, but actually, have have freaking American Made gotten any goddamn wins, and they're just relying on El Grande Americano? Is
Yeah.
it just me? Okay, just keeping track. They haven't had any wins on American Made except for El Grande Americano, but you know. And all right, it makes sense. I could see Asuka winning, but I think it's more towards F. But I wouldn't be surprised if it happens that Asuka wins. So we're gonna move on from that to Bailey
This is a
having a
Bailey
promo.
promo
Yep.
calling out Becky Lynch. She wants to fight Becky for the IC title. Now, Lyra comes out with her and hypes her up. And this leads to a tag team match at Evolution. Have they put a date for Evolution yet?
I forgot that evolution exists. I forgot. I forgot that evolution exists. So I've never factored that into my booking at all for this week.
This is going to lead to I guess, a tag team match at Evolution between Bailey and Lyra and Becky and an opponent of her choice, which could be a new debut on the roster, possibly. But we will see. I think that makes sense because they are bringing back Evolution, and Bailey and Becky are two, of the more notable women on the roster, especially in the history of modern WWE Women's Wrestling. So
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
I also think that
For
makes
prediction.
sense. I just didn't think evolution existed. And it was like, let's build up.
Yeah, Triple H
Let's
forgot
build up.
Evolution existed until about last Tuesday as well. So
I I honestly I think he's gonna book Evolution like a house show, and he's just gonna fill it
yes,
with a bunch of women. That's it.
yes, it's going to be basically another Saturday night. It's going to be another like almost like
It's
a Worlds
yeah,
Collide, like a
yeah,
pre PLE show.
yeah. He's gonna fill it with like NXT, maybe Evolve, and like main roster women, and just calls it a day. But
Yep, yep.
yeah, I can see the tag match happening. I'm more inclined towards building up to Night of Champions because that's the more recent event that they have to build up to. But I can see it happening for Evolution as well. And finally,
Finally, we have the four-way match, King of the Ring qualifier. I think Jey Uso wins via pinfall on Rusev. That is caused by Sheamus. I think what happens is Sheamus bro kicks Rusev, and basically Rusev gets knocked out. Sheamus maybe runs over to the ropes. He's tired. Bronson Reed takes him out. They both go over, and then Jey Uso does an Uso splash and pins Rusev while Sheamus is outside of the ring.
yeah,
Why do I have Rusev taking the pin? Because I think that adds a little more heat to the fire between him and Sheamus. I think this is definitely destined for a SummerSlam matchup, possibly a cage match between the two. And Jey Uso winning makes it so that it seems like they're going for this all face final four for the men, because you have like Randy Orton and Sami Zayn versus and Cody
oh,
Rhodes versus each other. So you have this like friends facing off in a tournament deal going on. And I think that's where they're heading.
okay. So what were you saying? Rusev's next steps would be like you were saying something about him being in a tag match. I think is what you said.
No, I'm saying the next step. The reason Rusev gets pinned
Yeah.
is it adds more uh, heat to the beef between him and Sheamus.
Okay.
And this leads, I think, to a cage match
At SummerSlam.
at
Yeah.
SummerSlam between the
Right.
two.
Okay. And you were saying something. Okay. I guess I didn't. I guess I missed something you that you said about Bronson Reed or Jey Uso or something.
Uh, I think what happens basically, how this match ends, is Sheamus tries to finish Rusev. He does, and then he gets taken out by Bronson Reed, and they both end up outside of the ring somehow. I don't know how that happens, but basically, what I'm trying to say is that Sheamus is the reason that Rusev gets pinned, not Jey Uso.
Oh.
And
Okay.
that I think that adds more heat to the rivalry because
I see.
Rusev has, a reason to go after Sheamus now.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Hmm. So, what do you see anything happening for Saturday night's main event or SummerSlam
I think
between
this goes to SummerSlam in a cage match.
right and Bronson Reed
Probably, yeah.
and Jey Uso is gonna be part of the whole Seth's faction kind of deal, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's funny how the other two members of Seth's faction have been booked.
Yeah.
Braun Breaker, you thought he was going places, and he got put in this faction with Seth Rollins, and he's just been a dog. He's a little
Yeah.
dog man next to
Yeah.
Seth Rollins.
I think what they're gonna go for is they're gonna help Seth win, and then Seth is gonna help the rest of his faction win their titles, and then we could probably see all of the titles being held by Seth's faction, maybe next year.
That, yeah, I could see that. Bronson Reed wins the U.S. title. Uh, Braun Breaker gets his IC title back, and then they go after the tag titles
Yeah,
on one brand, and then that's okay. I can see that.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know how long Jey Uso is gonna resonate with people, but it's yeah, it's kind of hard to be part of Seth's faction and not do anything else but help Seth for the time being. But it is what it is. And with that realization, that's about it for this episode. Probably next week on Raw. As I stated earlier, we're going to watch the next episode after locking in this stuff, and we will see what happens. And we're going to reveal to you the points for the next episode of the show. But for now, thank you so much for ordering a pepperoni pizza called Probably Next Week on Raw from Grapperinos. And remember, if you're looking for some fresh, oven baked, crispy wrestling content, then stop on by Grapperinos and order yourself some content you can grapple with. See you next time, Grapperinos.